Hello, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and I'm here this afternoon joined with Bob Minhas. Thank you so much, Bob, for giving me your time to talk about the times that we're going through right now and how to keep a positive mindset and get creative in your business and pivot, whether it be business and also life in general. So thank you, Bob, for joining me. And if you want to just give us a few words about who you are and what you're all about.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Michelle. It's always fun to jump onto to podcasts of people that are trying to have positive impact in the world. But hey, everybody, I'm Bob Minhas. I work with service-based entrepreneurs that are really trying to build and brand their expertise online. So my goal is to help the typical accountant or the local chiropractor understand how, by really targeting and focusing on a particular niche or a particular expertise, how they can actually garner successful qualified leads just by doing that. So that's what I do now. But I've been an entrepreneur for about 17 years. In that time frame, I've worked for the government as a business coach. So I've done a variety of different things. I've worked with every type of model of business you can imagine, from corporate training to network marketing. So I'm really blessed to have a really varied background. And because I've worked in so many different models, keeping positive is the only way I found to keep sane, if you think about it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And as we were saying before getting online here, I just found myself really getting sucked into the fear and everything like that as things were changing. But of course, we basically lost all of our control in the matter of a couple days. The whole future and so many unknowns just came out of nowhere, kind of thing. Like all of a sudden, everything is gone
Yeah.
for so many people.
Mhm.
I've spoken with speakers on this and event planners, and all of a sudden their entire year is gone.
Mhm.
And so it was definitely no surprise that our emotions were all over the place, and that's what I really found as well. And initially too, it was things were shut down. The school was shut down for 3 weeks. So that was kind of, at first it was like, oh, we're going to shut down for 3 weeks and then we're going to all go back to work and everything will be the same. And now, of course, we're 3 months later and we know that that is not the case.
I
So
think
what?
I think you've really hit on an important point there. Is our expectations weren't set. And I don't know, Michelle, that we can blame anybody, because this is really new for us. I mean, the last time we've had a
Yeah,
true pandemic is what, the Spanish flu back in
yeah,
1927.
yeah.
So
So that's another lifetime.
right. So I think as a people, we as a culture and our government, nobody knew what to expect. So there's a lot of fear that exists in the unknown. And what I find happens is, you're absolutely right. We tend to get sucked into negativity because it's hard for us to believe anything positive because we don't have a frame of reference, right? So if you get not majorly sick, but if you get a flu or if you get something like that, based on life experience, there's a positive outcome. You will get better. If you sprain your ankle, based on previous experience, you can get better. But when the world tells you there's a virus that has a fatal component to it and that everyone must stay home, you don't know what to expect out of it, short of what Stephen King tells you in the movies. Right? So that's always the trick as well.
Right, true. Yeah, exactly. And as humans, we don't like change.
Well, I think
And we don't like loss of control.
that's it, right? So I think, for some of us, we can manage change, but what
Yes.
none of us can manage is the idea of not being in control of our lives. And some might
And the
argue,
unknown.
and the unknown. Some might argue, well, when you work full time, you're not in control. But, we live our lives to have some level of control. That's the whole premise of Canadian culture, is freedom, right? So, for lack of a better, I'm being dramatic, but truly people felt like a loss of freedom, right?
Well, yeah, when you're told you have to stay in your home
Yeah,
and that you can
yeah,
only go out when you have to go get your groceries or medication or anything like that essential.
yeah,
That's what it was.
yeah. You're absolutely right.
And the initial reaction too was resistance to what's
Hmm.
happening.
Hmm.
Um, but I think by now we have accepted what's happening.
Yeah, I think we've tired of it. I think we're
well, we're tired of it, but we have accepted the fact that we cannot control it, and we cannot control the future. We can't plan for the future because we don't know. There's so many unknowns. So we've actually been forced to live in the present, live in the now, and be present, which we're not comfortable with doing that.
Right. That's a really good point. I mean, it's something new on so many levels. Not only are we trying to live that life, but then we've got to support our partner who's trying to live that life, our children, our aging parents, right? There's so many, I find this more with women, but I think there feels like there's this need to ensure everyone else is okay. And that's a lot of overwhelm to experience during a time like this, right? So I know for me, I only experienced half of it with my kids, right? I was more worried about, how are my kids managing it? But I'm sure their mom had to think about her partner, the kids, her family. And so, yeah, I think you've really hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. And it's also, it's difficult for the kids too. Like, not being able to do what they normally would do, and to not see their friends. Just especially the younger kids who don't even understand.
Yeah.
It's been quite a difficult experience, I think, all around.
Yeah.
For all of us. And everybody's dealing with it in a different way too.
Yeah. So when I'm going to ask you, even though this is your show, so what was the first thing you did to try and make your world more positive? Like, was there an initial step that you did?
I think I just stepped into action with these interviews, right? So I actually took one day to kind of just sit and do nothing or whatever. Yeah. And then on the, I think it was the Monday, because Thursday was the day that the NBA announced the season. And then everything just went like boom, boom, boom every hour. It was, I was glued to the news because, seeing what was happening. And then Friday was my shopping day to stock up at Costco and then the liquor store.
Yeah, priorities.
Well, I was concerned if it might be closing, and
yeah.
And then on this, it was Sunday. Then I decided, like, what am I going to do? What can I do to help others? And so I started with these interviews, and I think that for me the way to get out of the fear was to step into action and start talking to people, because what I found is, we're all going through the same thing. We were all feeling the same emotions, and everybody was finding that the best way out was to get into a routine where you were getting up in the morning, you were getting dressed, setting the tone for the day, and then just, taking it one step at a time, taking it day by day. Yeah. And deciding what to do. And as somebody said, one of my earlier interviews, it was like conquering the day.
Yeah.
That was his thing. It was just like, figure out what you need to get done today, and then, go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. You totally took my answer, because I think for me, that was my saving graces. So I turtled a lot longer than you did. I probably spent 2 or 3 weeks just trying to figure out where I was and what I was doing and how this was going to work. And I had to work on a lot of things internally, which didn't have to do with everything COVID-19, but COVID-19 brought it out, right? I think it brought out a lot of baggage out of a lot of us. So I had to spend that time. But you're right. One of the saving graces I found was when I realized that I had this opportunity for a routine. I could get up at the same time every day. I could eat my meals at the same time every day. I could have my vitamins at the same time every day. There was something really comfortable in that routine, even though the world outside was just, for all we knew, on fire, right? But I knew that this was this little part of my world that I could control, which is I could get up on time. Right. I could show up. I could eat my lunch. I could show up. And that was a huge difference, because every week I started doing that. So after 3 weeks, I started this process. That positivity came because I would add an element to my routine every time. So first it was just get up, put pants on. If we can do that, that's great. Then it was get up, take a shower, put pants on. So, and then I just kept slowly adding to it to the point
Right.
now where I love my routine, right? There's breakfast, there's vitamins, there's exercise. I have all of these elements. And I find that keeps me balanced when I have to be on Zoom for 4 to 8, well, sometimes 6, 8 hours a day. So I think the routine part, you've got it down pat. That's a huge, huge, huge help for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I think for a lot of us, a lot of people were just not doing that. It was just so overwhelming that a lot of people would keep their pajamas on all day and not necessarily get up and dressed,
right,
and everything like that. So and then I think a lot of people had found nature and basically started going out for walks, where a lot of people who didn't do that before, because they found that was that was the only escape from the house, and you need to get out and get some change of scenery and get the fresh air, and of course that helps you with your health. It rejuvenates you being out in nature. But I think we've all had a lot of time to appreciate the little things that we might have not noticed before.
100%. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Even when it was sort of inside of, like, I've noticed a lot of idiosyncrasies within me that I was able to really be aware of and focus on to work on. So I think you're right. I think it made us more aware of our environment, whether internally or even just locally, externally, I should say.
Yeah, because again, it gave us the time to sit and be present and reflect. So also reflecting on how you were living your life, and were you happy with the way that that you were living your life? Because a lot of us were really racing around prior to this, always rushing from one thing to the next, and really there's a lot of stress as well. And now with everybody being at home, working from home, and having more family time, more relaxed time, also has given people the chance to figure out what they really want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting, because I've seen it evolve in a few different ways. Certainly I've seen relationships kind of crack, but as much as I've seen a lot of relationships actually get stronger. What's been interesting in my world is it's been a lot busier here, because I've seen a lot of people who've wanted to explore entrepreneurship explore it now, which is really interesting to me, right? Which is really interesting to me, because it doesn't take any more time than it did before, but there's something about permissibility. There's something about this lockdown and everything that's happened, where people have said, I want to do this for me. So the people I talk to, they're not necessarily saying I need to earn more money. They're saying, Bob, I've had this idea for 6 years and I've sat on it and I've never done anything with it, and I just want to explore it. And I think that's an amazing opportunity, because I go on this rant often about entrepreneurship isn't always about making money, and people will fight me for it, but it truly is. It really is just a way of thinking. It's a style of living your life. When people talk about entrepreneurship and they tie it with money, certainly that's a component of it, but that's not, it's not its all in being. I meet entrepreneurs who are in the social sector, right? So they're a nonprofit or they're a social enterprise. They're not any less entrepreneurial than you or I, Michele. They are just told constantly by the media, like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, that they're not real business owners. And so I love that we've had this time to really understand that, we can create something and we can do something. You're a prime example. The reason why you wanted to do this was to help others. I 100% will fight till the death that's what entrepreneurship is designed to do. The whole idea of earning money, certainly I'm not going to degrade it. It's important, but it being the end all and be all, like when we measure entrepreneurs as the one that earn millions and millions of dollars, that really bothers me, right? When we look at people like Bill Gates, certainly, there was some innovation in the work that he did, but if you follow the story of Ted Rogers, people will tell you he was a jerk to work for, but he came up with a lot of innovation, and certainly he wanted the company to make money, but the innovation that went behind a lot of the technology we have alone here in Canada is to me, that's entrepreneurship, right? He wanted to create connection. He wanted to create community, just like Alexander Graham Bell with the phone. So anyway, that's my rant there. But I think
no, it's true.
Yeah, it is, and I think we should all be exploring during this time, whether it's entrepreneurship, maybe it's people just want to volunteer more, or as I said earlier, they want to invest back in their relationship. You know, I think there's tons of opportunities for us now.
Yeah, and it's given us the chance to figure out what's important.
Right.
What's important to you. And I also think that entrepreneurs are also more adaptable to this whole environment, and you know, because we are used to having to pivot and having to change and make adjustments in our business for the environment. But again, I think that this whole period of time has made people move into action.
Yeah.
In terms of things they've always wanted to do. And you're right when you say that there's no difference in time. And even in some cases, yes, some people have more time, but not necessarily, because in some cases when you have to now deal with all the kids at home and the interruptions and things like that, you don't necessarily have more time. It's just that it's just what you choose for your priority and what you choose to spend your time on.
That's a really great point, right? Yeah. Those boundaries are huge. And I think when we talk about this idea of how do we stay positive, like how do we remain positive in what we're doing, that's sort of another trick that I found was really helpful. And it's easy for me to say it. Like I in no way am ignoring that almost every mother I know has less time than they did before during isolation. I'm not ignoring that, but what I find is it's really interesting that there's more for us to gain and benefit if we choose those boundaries, right? And again, it's easier said than done for me, but boundaries are what allowed me. So the first thing I did, by the way, after I came out of this 3-week self-reflection and pizza, was I talk about this a lot, but I did a real deep friendectomy, a really, really deep friendectomy. And I have a friend I work with a lot. He's really great. He always says to me, Bob, if people are not adding to your lives, if they're taking away from your life, that's never going to get you to move the dial in your business. And so I applied that to this. How do I stay positive? Well, I have a lot of people who are down in the dumps. Certainly, if I really, really, really care about them, if there's an intimacy there, I'll try and support them. But I always have this boundary of, look, I can't keep letting you take my energy and in turn me absorbing your negative energy. The boundaries are critical in being able to say, this is what my day looks like. And I am disappointed, and it might just be my network, Michele, but I am disappointed that I've not seen in my network only a lot of dads step up, right? Like I would have thought with all of the moms and everything that they have to carry, you know, I don't know. I guess I just would have, I guess because I would have done that, or I've done that in the past. I know that I've had family members that do that. It's foreign to me that you even have to, as a woman, define these boundaries. It should be sort of like, look, I have a business to run just as much as you do. I think there's a value statement in that. But I went off on a tangent. That was really helpful with staying positive, was I had to establish these boundaries. What am I willing to accept in my circle and what am I not?
Right. And I have, I think this is the first time that I've actually gone into Facebook and unfollowed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because
wait, did you unfollow me? I need to check.
There was just so much negativity was coming in there, and people were, whether it was negativity, then there was a lot of judgment. I was getting very upset with people who were judging others and the way that different people are, dealing with this, or whether some people, feel like it's okay that things are opening up and others say, no, it shouldn't be opening up and it's unsafe. And then of course there's the people with all the conspiracies. We're always sharing the conspiracies. I was even getting videos sent to me through Messenger, and I was like, so I've used that, and I've deleted a few people as well, because it just same thing. You just have to guard your energy and be mindful of the people that you are letting in.
And it's hard, right? Because Michele, generally there's some part of you that still probably cares for them, But, this lack of being able to be selfish is so hard for us because, one thing another thing I used to hear from a really great mentor was, she would always say, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. And I know that's a common phrase, but when she said it, it really hit me hard is, all of the things that are happening right now, we're given so much more time. What are we doing with it? Like, and I hope I don't upset some of your viewers, but what happened with isolation for some of us could have been a gift. It could have been, because now we've been given all this extra time for the most part.
Yeah.
What are we choosing to do with it? And again, I'm very mindful of moms that have found themselves with less time because now they're the number one caregiver. But, certainly I think that for some of us, we've had that advantage, and I will tell you honestly, I think some people have squandered it. I think I'm glad I had the 3 weeks to work on myself. And then from that moment, I took exactly what you said to heart. And I said, how are we helping and contributing to others now that, we have this available time?
Yeah. Yeah, right, exactly. And there was also a period of time when I was very overwhelmed because there was just so much available online. Everybody was coming online and offering free webinars, and people who you would normally have paid thousands of dollars for were offering it all for free. So I did go through a period of time when I was signing up for everything. But then I realized that I've got to get a handle on this, and I can't just be work. Although I have been working a lot through this period of time, but what I've been working on is everything that I find have decided is very important to me.
Yeah, very good.
And things to lay the foundation for my business as well, because I was already working on my branding and messaging prior to the shutdown. So in that respect, I've taken the time to do that, and I think a lot of people have had the opportunity again to do that. So anything you wanted to do in your business, which you would put off saying, I don't have the time, again, this is the opportunity.
Yeah. And to your point, not just business, even personal, right? Like, I think if there are
and personal.
You've been sort of wanting to read that book, or you've always like, I'll give you an example. I love using this example because you and I both know Mary, who leads Hub Inc. One of the things Mary did that was so powerful for me, she and her hubby, was when her kids had to learn from home, just like the rest of us, she developed a secondary curriculum for them. So I don't know if you've heard, like, I asked her to post it on Facebook, but she had the board curriculum, and then she had additional curriculum that was all about components of life skills, about understanding investing in money. And I was like, I've always wanted to do that with my kids. Like, I've always wanted to take like a Saturday morning, bribe them with pancakes and say, hey, can we, but I just couldn't wrap my head around creating the curriculum. And so when Mary did that, the first thing I asked her was, may I please have this curriculum? And my kids are actually liking it. I thought there'd be resistance, but I've always wanted to do that. Thank God, Mary was around to create that for me. But if she wasn't, I probably would have gone through the steps and done it myself. But you're right in that now's the time that we can do things in our business, but even in for our family, for our kids. I think another thing that I'm finding really interesting from a lot of entrepreneurs that I'm talking to is a lot of them are investing in communication. So I think because you and hubby are working full time in the day and the kids are school in the day and you only come together for dinner at night, because of this forced time together, I'm watching a lot of entrepreneurs saying, wow, I never really talked to my son or my daughter, or I never knew this about my partner. There's a funny meme going around where it says, share your husband, what was it? It was basically how husbands say these really corny lines at work, like, let's drill that down, or let's circle back later. And they were sharing these memes of, I never knew my husband was that jerk that he used those lines. But you see, it's opening up these lines of really learning more about our partners and our families and our extended family, because we're paying so much more attention, which is what you said. So again, there's that gift. How can we leverage that? If I'm learning more about my partner that I never knew about before, that's a gift. Granted, for some people, that's a curse. They've learned things about their partner. They're like, man, I wish I didn't know this anymore. But I think that's a key to positivity as well, is, and we kind of said it earlier, is really being mindful of all these elements that you never realized you had time for before or were aware of before, and how can you really appreciate that, right? One last example. This sounds silly, but it's true. I drink my tea slow now. I used to, by the way, I cut out coffee. I used to drink coffee and I've minimized my tea. And when I drink my tea, I drink it slow. And that might sound stupid, but I got to tell you, Michele, I never really tasted tea. Like I always just shot it back because I had to have my caffeine blast and it was what you did. And now I'm like trying chai tea, chocolate tea. I'm like trying all these different teas because I'm enjoying the taste of it. Seems so minimal, but even little things like that, they really give me sort of a smile, like that positive kick. Anyway, so I just wanted to
it's true because I remember people also saying how they were noticing the squirrels and noticing the birds and you know, where you wouldn't before because you were always rushing. So you're really taking the time to be present makes you realize and notice things as well. So I think that just in general, the online looking forward, everybody has, you know, just think of the big corporations downtown, the banks and insurance companies and everything like that, where they've had to bring everybody home to working online. I mean, sorry, working from home. I think we're all realizing that technology can be very useful, and we can be very innovative in terms of using technology to run businesses better going forward. And supplementing online with live, you know, in terms of live events that we're having, where people have now created an online conference. Well, going forward, they're going to have both.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that during this time, Michele, we haven't developed new technology. We've just embraced the technology we've had all this time, which is crazy, right? Because, you know, I think we kept hearing these reasons of why you can't work remotely, or hearing these reasons of why live events are important. And live events have their value for sure. But we just didn't want, I would meet a lot of people who just didn't want to embrace change, which we talked about earlier. And this sort of forced isolation, or this forced staying at home component, you could see the people that evolved and innovated are the true entrepreneurs. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to other business owners that lost their business. Certainly that was tragic and it's very difficult to come back from. But you know, again, not meaning to be offensive to some of your viewers, but the business owners that have survived are the ones that are business owners. There are a lot of people who start a business because they have a technical skill. I'm really, really good at making gluten-free cupcakes. And for some reason they think I'm going to build a business. Now, certainly that's a good way to start, but that's only 20% of your business. All of the businesses that have struggled during this time are the business owners that didn't have the other 80% of their business, right? They've only had this part of, I make good cupcakes. I need a store to make good cupcakes. I need a truck to deliver good cupcakes. But all of these other components of operational capacity, of cash flow. You know when else we saw this? We saw this when the minimum wage increased and all these business owners said, we can't afford this. These elements of change are actually quite normal in business. So, you know, and again, I don't want to be disrespectful in that COVID certainly it's a global experience. We couldn't have expected it. But and a lot of business owners have suffered, but a lot of people have maintained or thrived. And I think it's our objective as a race to look at, or as a community to look at, why did those business owners thrive and the other ones didn't? You gave a good example. You said there were all of these amazing pieces of information and education that were normally 10 times the price available to me. Most people would say, yeah, that's cool. Who cares? You said, I'm going to take this time and use this to self-develop me. So, you know, I think, and I feel like I keep going on tangents, but I think, you know, when I look at the business owners that are still around and that are thriving, that are coming back, those are the entrepreneurs. Those are the small business owners, the ones that didn't make it. We go through this all the time. Recession of 2008, you know, minimum wage increase. You know, although coronavirus hit, we're still going to see, I promise you, an increase in some level of commercial taxation or commercial rents. And then you're going to see another, it's this constant filter of removing people that don't have that entrepreneurial sense. And you know what kills me? You know why I say that? I don't say that to be mean. I say that because anybody can be an entrepreneur. The key is you have to be committed to investing in it. And I don't even mean money. There's growth, education, your circle, mentorship. Like you can't just show up to work every day, do the same thing and go home and say you have a business. All you've done is create a job. You've just created a job for yourself. So, given that the point of our podcast is positivity, I feel like what helps keep those business owners, the ones that have thrived and maintained positive, is this idea that, like you had said, they can critically think and they can adjust and they can pivot as they need to.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think that also, besides entrepreneurs, I think some of these corporations and big businesses like that, you know, hopefully they're going to take something from this and realize that those long-standing ways of doing business, where you know everything is being done a certain way because it's always been done this way.
Right.
Hopefully they innovate and you know, think outside the box, get creative, and understand that they don't have to have 100% of the people working in the office. They don't have to always go physically to meetings. You can do a lot over Zoom or other web conferencing services. And you know, I just, for me, I felt like when I worked in corporate, it was like being treated like a kid or something, like a kindergarten, you know, no, like being told what to do and when to do it. And I hope that that these big businesses will understand that people can work from home and get things done, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a 9 to 5.
I think that's a really good point, because I know that comes from leadership, right? You really need the leader that can believe in that, because poop flows downhill. And what I find is there are, you know, this time has really shown us the leaders that believe in entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is the concept of taking entrepreneurship and applying it within a corporate setting. It doesn't mean people are making money to earn their paychecks. It simply means they're applying that thinking I had mentioned earlier, critical thinking, communication, even networking, internally. So I think you've really hit on the head. Hopefully they'll assess, you know, what's happened, and they'll realize two things. Number one, maybe we need to be implementing on entrepreneurship to be able to foster the growth of our company. But number two, we should probably ask our staff, is this something that they liked? Because you've probably seen study after study that says employees are more productive when you remove their commute. That commute, for a lot of employees, you rob them of 2 to 4 hours of productivity a day. So,
and it's stressful, right?
It is stressful, 100%.
I mean, especially in Toronto.
yeah. But I mean, the idea here is if we could find a way, maybe a compromise, maybe they only come in 2 days a week, but if we can give them back those 2 or 3 hour commutes and convert that into productivity, how is that going to help us? I mean, I hope. And I think you'll see a lot of startups, like tech startups. I think a lot of them, like I've read of a number, I think it was Shopify, and there were a few other startups that have made now, they're never going back to physical space.
Yeah, I think Twitter was another one, I think. Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's all about that, giving the employees the choice, because I know that a lot of employees also don't enjoy working from home. They like to be there. They like to be in the office with other people, and they need that. But just the whole old structure of 9 to 5, everybody's in the office, that kind of thing, it doesn't work anymore. It really doesn't. With technology the way it is, even if you work at some of these companies, you're on call with your phone like all the time, on the weekend, whatever. So it's just a matter of like, it's going back to the old concept of work-life balance, which really never existed. And now we realize it's like it's what I would call whole life balance.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I think when it comes to this idea of staying positive and staying sort of basically staying away from depression, is we do need to evolve into these workforces that are built on the employees. So in the old days, with industrialization, there was the boss and he told you what to do. And employees were okay with that, because that's how our parents grew up. And then we grew up and we started experiencing change, right? So, you know, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, so many things changed, our culture, our economy. And so the way we work started to shift. And that wasn't fully embraced by our economy. But now you have the millennial network and the community. The millennial community, they are driven by social change. You can't always pay them off, right? They're living in an economy where they can barely afford a house anyway. Giving them more money just gives them more taxation. So I think you're right in that. I hope, as you're saying, I think that this experience with COVID-19 has shown employers, maybe we do need to evolve to our changing workforce as opposed to using industrialized thinking, right? Corporations are a good example because certainly for them to initiate a shift takes longer, right? They're larger, they're more clunky. Yeah. But they could easily say, look, you know what, Michele, we're going to start with the graphics department and we're going to try this experiment. We're going to say, I don't know, we're going to move to a 3 days work from home, or maybe we only move to a 4-day work week, whatever it is that they want to do. But again, I think that needs to come from leadership looking at, this is a horrible thing to say, but it's true. Leadership looking at what's the return on investment for that positivity. And I think I don't know a study that doesn't show it actually helps productivity because people are happier. They love the work that they do. It's not a job to them anymore. It's a career.
Right. Yeah. And exactly. And the fact is that they were forced to adapt to this environment and send everybody home and get everybody working and get business running in such a short period of time.
Right.
That we know it can be done. Yeah. There's no excuse anymore.
Yeah.
For it. And even for the entrepreneurs and everything now, it's, do we really have to go in person to do everything? Mm-hmm. I think, I know, like the conferences, meetings, things like that, a coffee meeting too. Mm-hmm. While we like to have a sit down coffee meeting, mm-hmm. that would normally take you, say you sit down for an hour and have a meeting, but then you got a half hour to get there and half hour home. What if you just did it over Zoom?
Yeah.
It's something to look at, I guess, going forward, how things are going to change. Even with the schooling as well. Just so many things that really, so many archaic ways of being, whether the school system alone too, right? That needed a change or needs a change. So look at, like anything, this is when innovation happens in a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely accurate. I love that. Awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So yeah, for sure. So I think that there's a lot of silver linings to see in this whole situation that we're going through, and it's just really giving us a chance to look at things in a different light and get creative and think outside the box and how to do things better and come together as a community as well.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I love it. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Bob.
Thanks,
it was
Michele.
Great talking to you. And I will put your information up underneath this interview when I put it up as well.
Wonderful. I love connecting with people, especially positive people. So that's great.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to when I can see you in person in the future.
Yeah, I love it.
All right.
Thank you, Michele.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.